Hey, and welcome to the YouTube channel. Today we're gonna be rendering this image of the robot that you can see on the screen here. And you can see when I sketched it on the TikTok. So if you want to see that video, you can go and see how it's sketched. But today we're gonna be rendering it. So I think this is something fun that we can do together here. So yeah, let's get into rendering this robot together. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is expand the canvas a bit so that we have a bit more space to work with. So just expand it with the crop tool and can click yes, and then we can just fill it in with blank white right in the background layer. And that way the whole thing is white. So the image that you see here, I'm going to be providing with a drive link as well, so you can download this image and sketch along with me. Or render along with me. So yeah. So yeah, the first thing I'm going to be doing is just isolating the image of this robot. So I'm going to be clicking outside of the robot on the background layer, seeing these ants form around it, and then just shift clicking to select any more areas that I want to select. In reverse, so invert that selection with Ctrl Shift I, and then we can just create a new layer on which we can put that behind the background layer actually, and then we can just paint over it on paint layer 1. I should maybe place the background on multiply first, and that way you can see that the paint layer has affected the robot. Yeah, after this we can, now that we have a base tone on it, we can go and add some shadows and stuff. So I'm going to be going back to the selection in the background, and we can just choose which parts that we want the shadow on, such as this part on the side here. We want to mask this in with one of these lemon tools. Yeah, we'll do it that way. So we want the side of this robot to be masked here so that we can add some shadows on it and stuff like that. So we'll just mask the whole side of the wheel here, and we can shift click and mask the other parts which have to be in shadow as well. And then after this is done, we can possibly just block in some more shadows if they need to be blocked in. And we can just make a new paint layer for this called shadows. And we'll take just a darker version of this, maybe a bit more colored. Yeah, some cool blue here that I'm going to be using right now. And just put in some shadows for this shape. Oh, wait, now we'll have perhaps another color for the inside of this. We can maybe use yellow as some sort of accent color on the flip side of this. And I'll just mask that off for now. Again with this tool. And render this with some nice yellow color. So as you can see right now, it still looks really flat, and that's how it sort of is for now, and we'll start adding a bit more depth and character to this as we go along. I think that's a pretty nice yellow color. Yeah, so we can continue coloring this in now. So we have the yellows, we have the shadows, we have the base coat, and we have all of these in yellow shadows paint layer 1. Can perhaps, yeah, we can just call that base coat for now. Selecting this part. Going to shadows and being able to color in lightly. My pen sort of forgot how to do that for a short while there, but now we are back. So we have a shadow in the large section of this, creating some depth and interest in it, and then going even darker there. And it's starting to look much more shiny like that. This part also needs to be colored in now, so we can do that as well with this just quick selection tool that they have usually in Photoshop. So we have to select the background layer to select that part of the image and the corresponding ones. We can do that both with an airbrush or with a marker. So I'm going to be a bit too dark here. I'm just going to be doing that quickly with this airbrush like that, and then completing it with a marker. Darker in the marker area, and yeah, on these layers to add more depth. So we have this enormous marker tool now, which we can add a bit more light on the areas which need it. It's a bit smaller perhaps there. As well adding some light at the bottom of the wheel art just to suggest some depth. Just like so. And one at the back as well. There we go. Just blocking it in quite simply does the trick sometimes. We have this shadows layer and we can keep making shadows on the parts that do need it with this marker. Then we have a bit more of a dynamic look on that as well, and we can go with the highlights, which we'll have in screen mode. I'll select the shadows once again, and in this layer we can add a bit of a gradient to this part of the shadow. We can select this part of the robot as well, and we'll paint on some shadows and highlights on the front of the tread here. There we go. So here we can just paint over that as well in the same way. Now we can actually start on the lighting of the robot, how this robot is going to be lit. Just before I do that, I'm gonna select this part and add a gradient on that as well. So from where the light comes, it's a bit lighter, and as it strays further down to the right, it's going to be a bit darker. So in the shadows layer, I'll just add that in with another airbrush. Airbrushes, they sometimes are quite hard to make look good in that way, but you can definitely make an airbrush look good as long as it's not everything in the image doesn't become too soft. So sometimes you want it to still have those hard edges where we limit the airbrush from going too far away, and we have this nice gradient going on the front of the robot, since we're lighting it right now from the top left is where the light is coming from. So now we can actually turn on the light in the robot. So we should make another layer, and let's make this, let's just call it screen. There we go. And we'll set the blend mode to screen, and we'll go to the other side of the color wheel and just choose a really bright yellow, a nice bright yellow color here for that. And yeah, let's start our process with a really large airbrush, as we can just airbrush our way through this. What we'll actually do before putting that on is let's put a black background on, not a black background, but we'll put some dark background in the back of the robot on paint layer 1, or yeah, let's put it on paint layer 1. So dark background, and now we can see as well some sort of way uh, where the robot is pointing this light at. Yeah, let's have something like that. That's a nice background to have for now. And then we can just turn this light on in the robot. So let's do that in the screen blend mode, and then go here and just start with that. Brush also has the blend mode screen on top of it. And let's put this actually at the front. Yeah, and now we can see how it looks like the robot is just lighting up the air in front of it. So we want the strokes much harder towards the center of the robot, and lighten them up as they go further away. We can actually just use a much larger brush for this to make the light pattern a bit softer. Maybe just paint some light onto there. Maybe some of it hits the top of this left wheel thing we have going on. Yeah, something like that. And it should fade over time as well. So we'll get an eraser and just start cleaning it up a bit. Huge eraser. And we want it to be just a bit softer as it goes out. So it doesn't need to be that harsh. And now we can do some more reflections actually from the light that it's emitting onto the robot itself. And I'm gonna be doing these with markers to make them stand out even more. Sort of just having the light thrown on the robot. I even like that it goes off the robot a bit. It almost looks like it's shining, having really shiny metal there. So yeah, paint it on as you see looks interesting on the robot. I'm going to be painting some on the tires here. So just having that really harsh lighting coming through on this tire, and as well as this tire, which it's really hitting here. We can perhaps even put some on the back of these arches here. Look at that. Just a really strong and confident highlight we put in there, since these are made of such shiny metal. We can perhaps even put some on the edge here of these circles, just to see that it's really reflecting there. As well as some of these edges, which are a bit sharp, but they will be able to catch that reflective light a bit. There we go. Fantastic. Some of these edges as well will be able to catch it. There we go. This way we have some really cool looking lighting on the edges of the robot here. And this is actually what really sells the image. Yeah, I think that's it for the reflections and such. What I think we should do is now put a proper background on this robot and some shadows. So you don't have to think too much about how they are exactly accurate to real life or such. Just you can put in some sort of approximate shadow going on here. So something like that I think will be just fine for this. Completely black. Yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. I think the harder we're doing it, the more yellow is getting into those shadows, which is not great, not ideal. So we'll just change that to, yeah, very color neutral there. And I think that looks fine. So we'll keep that as it is for for the shadows. I made them darker the closer they are towards the closest side of the robot, and they sort of become lighter as they go further back. And here it's a bit too yellow, but that's fine. Things like that happen. And now we can put a proper background on this little robot right here. So maybe it's some sort of robot that explores caves or something. And we can just put some grass here. Maybe some environment going on in front of the robot. So just some tracks coming out of its track feet there. Behind the robot. So just a nice contrasting piece to frame the main part of the robot that we're paying the most attention to, which is the light there. Uh, Define it a bit more. Or should we choose some color, maybe a, a light blue or something? Light blue, maybe light yellow, maybe some third color, maybe it's a reddish, more orangish color here. Yeah, I think the orange is nice here. Yeah, I think we have a really strong accent color here, which is the yellow, and